It is confirmed Dick Cummings is coming to the bachelor party.
Yeah, we'll see. I believe confirmation when he steps foot in the house.
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
Do you think he would do his thing where he just comes with a one-way ticket again?
I hope so.
Go to pick him up from the airport.
I hope he's there to fucking stay. Are we on?
We are. Believe we are live.
That's good. I stand by it.
I don't know what has been heard, but oh, there we go. All right. Let's get it started, I guess, boys.
Okay.
Yay, Bob.
Glory in the legends of this hard muscle life, and there's poetry in each season made of sweat and strife. But now's the time to work and strain at a sport that tests the spirit and challenges the brain.
Come on, let's go. Yeah, I'd like to have 75 degrees and sunny all the time too, but that's not football.
Do you fear the force of the wind, the slash of the rain?
We're gonna play it through light and rain.
Go face them and fight them. Be savage again.
Hello, everyone. Welcome into the Put Me in Coach podcast. It is our first podcast, Jeopardy-wise or a regular podcast, in a very, very long time. I think our last podcast was a Jeopardy round back on May 26th, and our last non-Jeopardy episode was May 14th. Bobby Blanco, Tyler Talley, Ian Foster with you. That's a threesome. No Greg Reporter tonight. We might have a surprise guest join in later in the show. We're still TBD on that. Thanks for tuning in. We are live on our Facebook page. We have been able to do that on these Zoom calls, being live on our Facebook page, which is always fun. And as of we are starting this right now, and a half hour late, no one is watching except maybe Ian. So that's cool.
Nice.
That's what we get
Sweet.
for starting a half hour late. That's what I get for trying to sneak in a boys episode before the podcast.
It's an acceptable excuse, in my opinion.
Yep, I accept this.
If you're not watching on our Facebook page, hopefully you're tuning in later on our YouTube channel. We do have a YouTube channel, Put Me in Coach Podcast on YouTube, also PMIC Podcast on Twitter and Instagram. And then, of course, on all the platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and SoundCloud. Give us a follow and subscription as we continue to hopefully do more pods more frequently. We're closer to sports, boys. We are now in July. A delayed happy birthday to Thomas Natali.
Thank you.
I won't say the age, but celebrated a birthday this past Sunday, the day after the 4th of July. Happy birthday, America.
Thank you.
But yeah, we are in July, and that has been kind of the target month, at least no specific date, of sports returning. So we're a little closer, about 2 weeks, a little more than 2 weeks away from a possible baseball season, and then training camps and basketball. I know the Wizards went down to Orlando. They shouldn't be. Please be in the lottery. Yeah. I mean, it's a definitely more of an exciting time right now than it was the last time we did a pod.
Yep. I am so desperate for live sports that I found a wiffle ball league on YouTube.
Well, first of all, that'd just be fun to watch.
You know, it's the production value is a lot better than I would have anticipated, and you know, I think they're all like college-aged kids, and like 20-minute videos playing wiffle ball, and you know, that's all I got. I didn't know what was going to happen. It was better than watching a rerun.
I feel like
I've watched marble racing on YouTube. Like, it's not even a joke.
Yeah.
No, we know.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I feel like we've all been getting into weird sporting events that aren't real sporting events. Like I've been watching way too much Holy Moly on ABC on Thursday nights. I know, but the actual putt, it's Steph Curry's, for those who don't know, Steph Curry's like adventure. It's like, what was that Japanese show?
Most Extreme Elimination Challenge.
What?
Which Most Extreme Elimination Challenge or American Ninja Warrior?
No. The first one mixed with putt golf. I guess it's kind of American Ninja Warrior too, but it's more pranky and jokey.
Yeah, more MXD.
But the actual putting, I enjoy watching. I think I have fun watching that because then I'm like, all right, well, you got to make this weird putt through over Uranus, and then you know. Joe Tessitore and what's his name, Rob Riggle, make so many just dumb jokes. But
Very.
And watching some cornhole tournaments.
Those guys are ridiculous.
Unbelievable, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's every single one.
Same with
And
the
well,
wiffle ball
but
players,
sometimes
by
it's
the way.
not. Like they choose where, like the flop shot, the push shot, the angle shot. I can't believe I know this much about cornhole now, but it just goes to show you like where we are without sports.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can't. I will say I can't get into like the competitive major like gaming. Like I can't watch 2K
No,
against
no,
each
I've
other
tried.
or Madden, something like that. Yeah, I just can't do it.
Those player leagues early on in like quarantine and shutdowns were a good idea, but I couldn't get into like MLB The Show either. Like they had one player from each team playing in a tournament. I don't even know who ended up winning that tournament league if they even finished. But yeah, I can't get into that either. It's like watching a simulation game by yourself. It's just you're not playing. Or if you're not around your friends, it's not that fun. All right, but yeah. So a lot to get to. Again, it's been a month and a half almost since we've done the last episode. More for a real, actual sports podcast. We're obviously going to touch on the Redskins name situation.
Primarily, yep.
That'll be our first topic, but then later on in the episode, we'll also be touching on the sports who are trying to get back later this month and whether or not they should or could be able to pull it off. And then also, in this day and age of 2020 and the political and social climate that we're in, a lot of athletes are choosing to take a stand or a stand for certain different issues. And so we'll be talking about that and who's standing up for what and whether they should be using their platforms to do so. And then we'll have a more fun topic. No Rotten Gregory's tonight, but we have a good substitute topic.
It's a good topic.
For later in the show.
I went back and forth on so many.
Dude, it took a while.
Well, I'm not going to spoil it yet. I want people to tune in at the end. But I also feel like we did this already, and if not, maybe we was just talking about it on the group.
I don't think we've had a lengthy back and forth conversation about it.
Gotcha.
Definitely didn't have a time where like I sat there and thought about it before the show.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, then we'll have a lengthy conversation on this.
I have orders also.
Oh, nice.
Awesome.
So he submitted. That's good. But of course, the big news around town here in DC is the Redskins name situation and the what now seems like an inevitable change coming, which a year ago, obviously, and then go back even 10 years ago, we thought would never have been close to becoming changing the name. And then all of a sudden, over the course of this past weekend, it's like, all right, you might as well just do it. I feel like all three kind of agree on that.
Rip the Band-Aid.
Yeah. But I mean, it seems like it's closer and more inevitable than ever.
Yeah. And it's frankly, just a few thoughts right off the bat. I'm sick of this conversation. I just either go one way or the other. It's just, it won't go away. And I know it always kind of had a strange trajectory where there would be a lot of negative publicity and then it would kind of dissipate for a while, then it would always kind of come back and ebb and flow, if you will. And then obviously where we are at in today's society, that I agree, Bobby, that it seems inevitable. Let me just say right off the bat, as a Redskins fan, I have countless merchandise behind me, above me. We all do. And just right off the bat, I associate the term Redskins with the team that I love, the one constant my entire life. If I'm wearing my Santana Moss jersey, I'm not trying to make a political statement. I'm not trying to offend anybody. I'm just trying to support a team that I love and a player that I love. And that's it. So my intent, and I think I can speak on behalf of the three of us, is our intent as fans was never, ever, ever, and I can say this about the organization too, was to disparage or offend anybody.
Yes.
Which I think is important.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree with that. And yeah, I think we should, definitely preface this conversation with that. And that, I mean, for those of us who are listening and know the three of us, we won't speak for Porter, but, or anyone else who's been on the show, but, you can kind of at least group him in with us that I don't think there's a racist bone in any of our bodies. And on the other hand, though, none of us are Native American. So we cannot put ourselves in their shoes and say how they should feel about this situation, about this issue. So
Yeah.
We acknowledge that. We're trying our best to stay, I guess, politically correct and respectful in this conversation, but at the same time, I think we're also entitled to our thoughts and as fans of the team.
Yeah,
and
I mean, it definitely hurts.
Yeah,
It's
like
not just
for
the
me-
name that hurts. It's it's like I said, like I texted right when it was happening. There's no more hail to the Redskins.
Mm-hmm.
That's gonna be my biggest one.
Yep.
No
by
more
far.
HTTR.
Yep.
Like there's just the list goes on and on. But
Yep.
the name itself, I feel like we'll be able to get over. Especially if they keep it with an R or a red tail, whatever it may be.
Mm-hmm.
HTTR stays the same. But that fight song, whatever they do, I'm gonna want to piss on it. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's no way they can come out with a song that's gonna make me feel the way Hail to the Redskins does.
Yeah.
What about hail to the defenders? What if it shields up?
Oh, we'll see. Too soon, Bob.
I know. And that's the other thing too, is that our personalities, for those who may be listening that don't know us at all, we make fun, we make joke, but again, we're not trying to be disrespectful.
No, not at all.
In this because this is a serious conversation. I mean, people.
This. And Tom, you and I, we said, and Bobby, we said this 3 weeks ago to a month ago. We're like,
this is only a matter of time.
I just want it over. Just
yeah.
I don't even want them to keep the name anymore. I don't.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that I don't love the name Redskins. I just want to stop hearing about it. Okay, yes, let's just move on and we got a new regime. All right, let's run with Ron and let's run with this new name. I don't want to hear anything about the Washington racists, all this nonsense. Let's just play some fucking football and let's get it out the way.
I retweet, and it's at the same time it kind of hit me like when FedEx requested the name change, and then about 24 hours later Nike removed all of their apparel off of their website. And I remember I was laying in bed, and the first thing that I was like, they're not going to play Hail to the Redskins when in the rare times we score a touchdown anymore.
Yeah. And
I'm looking back throughout my now 33 years of existence. I mean, my first outfit was a Redskins jersey, like a onesie. And, it's been a part of our lives, our entire lives. I mean, this was passed down by generations. And I understand that the statement saying, well, that says 87 years of tradition, and that's how, this is just how things are. I understand that's not an acceptable answer anymore, but in my opinion, can't words evolve? And in addition to the intent, actually it's meant in a complimentary way, as I understand. It's meant to glorify and pay homage to Native American tribes. And so it's selfishly and personally upsetting, but at the same time, just pull the Band-Aid.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Bob.
All right. So to that point, Tom, about the name and the word else, I don't know. You guys still there?
Yep.
Sorry. I hope my internet didn't cut out. I don't know if you guys or if any of our listeners tuned into the Grant and Danny program on 106.7 The Fan today. They've had some really good guests. I mean, it's only 2 days, but the past couple of days and late last week about this topic. And today they actually had a Redskins historian on. I don't know if you guys caught this interview, but Mike Richmond.
I just missed it.
Who's a Redskins historian. He's the author of the Redskins Encyclopedia and RedskinsHistorian.com. He has done extensive research on not just the team, but of course the team name and where it comes from. It's a 3-minute clip. It's kind of long, but I think it's very insightful of the history behind this word. I want to know your guys' thoughts. And I think it's also important context for this conversation. And I think, at least for me, where I'm going to take my argument in this conversation. So I'm just going to play real quick. Again, this is from Grand Danny Show. This is Mike. Mike Richmond on the Grand Danny Show 106.7 The Fan. So see if we can take a listen.
The creation of this word Redskin, in terms of the Redskins name, there's no evidence, nothing historical that I've come across in my research tying this in with any racist intent on the part of George Preston Marshall, who founded the team, the original owner. So, with the Redskins, there was no racist motive. And I mean, going back years, from what I've learned, the use of this word in the 1700s, 1800s, it was not used in a disparaging way toward Native Americans. Where I really think this whole thing changed. I mean, I'm going to point the finger at Hollywood. I really, from what I've read, my research, I believe this is all Hollywood liberties using this term in a disparaging way in old westerns toward Native Americans. And I think that's how the mindset basically changed. I mean, like with Susan Harjo, the woman who pushed for the Native American woman, pushed for many years for the Redskins to change their name. There has been no evidence that in real life, that which she said, that it had been used in a disparaging way. I mean, Ives Goddard, the famous linguist from Smithsonian, I mean, he's done research on this going back hundreds of years. I mean, he paints this in a very flattering light in terms of how it was used. I could read you a little bit. He says, when it first appeared as an English expression in the early 1800s, it came in the most respectful context at the highest level. These are white people and Indians talking together with the white people trying to ingratiate themselves. So, I mean, that's just one example. There are many more. I mean, and you can also look at the polls. The Annenberg poll from 2004, University of Pennsylvania, the Washington Post poll from 2016. And I know these are opinion polls and they can be skewed a certain way, but still, they concluded the same thing. 90% of Native Americans are not offended by this term. So, give you another example. Well, let's talk about the Washington Redskins and how they've used this term to honor Native Americans over the years. Marshall, in the 1950s, he created these on the game program covers. He would put the pictures of famous Native Americans, legendary Native Americans. Case in point, a game in 1957, Redskins Giants game. He had Osceola, the famous Seminole chief, on the cover of that game program. Quote, tall, slender, and straight, Osceola the Seminole was noted for his bravery, personal magnetism, and cunning military strategy. I give you more anecdotes, more examples, but that is how it is basically, in a nutshell, I believe, my historical take on this.
So I think that's pretty interesting. I don't think this gentleman is Native American at all.
Doesn't sound like it.
And it's something like, this is something that all of us over the past couple of years, excluding this year, have all kind of argued for the name. It's like, well, most Native Americans don't find it offensive, and especially
overwhelmingly amount of Native Americans.
I mean, 90%. I mean, now, of course, we're in a day and age, and if someone is offended, that doesn't mean it means you probably could cut it out. Yeah, and I totally understand that. I'm not trying to disparage the 10% that do find it offensive, but I think that historical context of where the name comes from and that word comes from is important. And it's so, I mean, I get that people are offended by it, but I think this kind of ties into my argument. His point about it was Hollywood that basically turned it into a bad term. They would use the term Redskins and make the Native Americans in those movies the villains. And that's where it kind of had this negative connotation on it. And then which brings to my overarching point in this whole thing is that, and I kind of talked to Ian about this on Saturday, is that it bothers me that, and this is a greater systematical issue, but it bothers me that this is only happening because now white people care. Now white people are offended by the name, and they're the ones taking action about it. I mean, those three minority owners that we're going to touch on later, how many of those guys are white? My guess is none of them. The CEOs and the executive boards of Pepsi, Nike, FedEx, Dick's Sporting Goods, I bet you they're all, I don't know for a fact, but my bet would be that they're all mostly, if not all, white. So my issue is that you talked about, Tom, how this is, something is, we feel like something's being taken away from us, something that we've grown to love and have a sentimental attachment to the name. And
I feel a bit singled out.
Yeah. But to me, I feel it's unfairly being taken away from me because now white people care. Where was this argument 10 years ago when RG3 was drafted?
It was there. Well,
but then as soon as he was benched, it went away.
Once we were good with RG3, then it was like, okay, change the name. And
then he got benched.
Like it always goes. Roller coaster.
Yep. Yeah. Where was this 20 plus years ago in the 90s when it first came. I mean, it's like nobody cared. And we're seeing it now. We always said, what would be the one thing to make Dan change the name? Well, if money stopped coming into the equation, and if Porter was here, this would be his biggest argument too, is that because the money stopped, that's what's going to make him change the name. And that money is coming from powerful white people. So that's what bothers me, is that, and this is a greater thing, why did it take how many Black Americans in this country to be murdered unnecessarily by police officers for us to finally get police reform in this country? It's because white people started caring now, all of a sudden. Where was this when Trayvon Martin was murdered, and all the other countless names? And we still don't have justice for a lot of these people. But now we see on the 6 o'clock news, white people standing arm in arms with the Black people who are protesting in the streets of DC. Now they care. Now we're going to have some reform. Oh, white people care. Oh, now let's change everything. So that's what bothers me about this whole thing. And that,
but they're actually not even changing what needs to be changed.
They're just saying they're going to change it.
I haven't seen any like real police reform or anything. I've seen you taking off Golden Girls episodes, like. But
the volume of voice has been louder than it ever has because white people are joining in.
This one feels real. This one feels like this one's actually going to make a difference.
So tied to the Redskins name, now that white people care and the money's stopping, that's not where we're going to change the name. And that's why I feel like it's being taken away from me unfairly.
Does it almost, I'm not, this is an actual question. Does it almost feel disingenuous that they're doing this for good publicity and to save face as opposed to standing up for something they think is morally
yes,
upstanding?
FedEx, 2 years ago, stood by Dan Snyder and company when they went to court over this name. They stood there and said they had their money on the table, said, yes, we stand by that name and that team. And then now it's no, our money's gone. You're racist.
Yep. So that's what really bothers me about the conversation. And it's nothing to do with whether the name is racist or not. I think the historical context we just got from that sound clip kind of proves that it doesn't have an historically racist root. It just evolved that way, and words can evolve. They can also evolve into a
if you just look
way.
at it, it does. It looks racist just by looking at it.
Right.
Like what we are nowadays. You can't say the white skins. You can't say anything blank skin. It does. It's racist. But the meaning behind that name, it was different when it came out. So now, but like I said, I get it now. Like, hey, it's gone.
It's gone.
There's no way there's no way it's staying. And you know, at this point, I don't even want it to stay, just because people would just shit on it the entire time anyways.
Yeah. And I mean, as Redskins fans, especially Redskins fans during the Snyder era, we know how bad what outside of the locker room dysfunction can do. And whenever there's distractions or something like that, it takes away from the actual team itself. And I think, similarly to these corporations that are saving face, I honestly think this could be a win for Snyder. That he can show, look, I can change too, and then he has an opportunity to change the name, change the uniforms, and start marketing new merchandise and apparel and gear and all of the above. And so,
I thought he would jump all over that.
Yeah, I mean, economically speaking, that would make sense to me. But I know deep down he's a horrible one, but he's a Redskins fan too. So. I mean, I know he went on record over a decade ago and said, we are not changing the name, period, in all caps. And, that's one thing that he's been really steadfast in throughout his ownership. And, this is really a tipping point because whether we like it or not, I think I can speak for the three of us that the name change, and we've experienced this already as Wizards fans, that even if they change the name, it's not going to prevent us from watching them every Sunday at 1 o'clock or 4 o'clock.
No.
So, I'm still going to be a fan. I'm still going to root for the players that I like. It's not going to change anything other than the fact that it's going to be. I remember how hard it was to make the switch from Bullets to Wizards, and we were kids. I don't know how I'm like just when I hear the term Redskins, it's forever ingrained in my head. Like, huh? Did someone just talk about the team that I love?
It's a buzzword.
Yeah, and exactly. So it's going to take some time to get adjusted. for sure. And I really, really hope it's just a name that we like, and that I know it's not going to be unanimous, but let's just not have a situation like we had with the Wizards. So
don't fucking do it. Don't do it. We've accepted the name change. Don't do it poorly, please.
So I guess furthermore, with my question in regards to the name change, do you want it to stay something similar, like keep red in the name, like whether it's Red Tails, Red Spears, Red Hawks, or still somewhat paying homage to the Native American culture, but not in a derogatory way? So I've seen Warriors is a very, very common one, Bravehearts. What are your guys' thoughts on that? Or would you want to say like a just complete clean slate, and let's wear red, white, and blue like the rest of the DC teams and start over?
Burgundy and gold. I want the color scheme to stay the same. No question.
I think that's a good compromise for those that want the name to stay.
Yes. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, hey, give me, and that's what I asked you guys the other day. Would you rather keep the logo? Would you rather keep it with an R and the same syllables? Red Tails, Redskins. I really just don't even know. Warriors might be my favorite name. Washington Warriors. I actually like the way that flows. But Red Tails that's been creeping up on me.
Red Hawks for me.
Red Hawks. I like Red Hawks.
To me, it's
Red Wolves. Where the fuck did Red Wolves come from?
I don't like Red Wolves at all.
I don't know.
Neither
Also,
do I. And now, like, all of a sudden, I'm seeing that's the fucking front runner. How?
I also don't like that mock-up logo that whoever made that on Twitter. Like, that looked more racist than our normal logo.
Yeah, I'm good.
Guys, I'll be right back. I got to hop on a call real quick.
All right, so now Ian and I carry the show. Now it's the Ian and Bobby show. I think
mean, you can always pause it.
Well, we're live. Did you just Ian me, or were you?
No. I was like, oh yeah, yep, it's right there. Live on Facebook.
Yeah, we're live on Facebook. To me, like, I would think I want something that begins with R. Yes. And has the same syllables, not just only to kind of fit it back into Hail to the Redskins and maybe tweak that a little bit, because that is one of the best fight songs in all of sports. I mean,
all of sports. I don't care if it's biased. It's just
fight for all DC. I mean, Sons of Washington. That's such a great line too. Yes. And then to me, like, do something like Red Hawks, Red Spears, whatever, and then just go back to one of our retro logos. Do the burgundy and the spear on the helmet.
I love the spear.
Do the R in the circle with the feather. Like, I mean, those, how can you be mad at the letter? Yeah. And so to me, that would be ideal. I understand the idea of having to do, like, trying to do a clean slate. You know, if you're going to change the name, just change everything and just completely wash away your history, and to George Preston Marshall, to the name Redskins, which I'm actually, now that I mention it, I'm more for changing the name if it's for completely cutting ties with George Preston Marshall, who we know was an absolute racist.
Fucking racist.
Yes. His own granddaughter even said, tear his statue down. Don't care. He was a terrible person.
Yeah.
I'm more for changing the name if that in that sense. So just kind of be like, we acknowledge this part of our history, but we're moving past it. We're just going to completely cut ties with our previous owner because of his terrible, terrible history. But yeah, I understand the idea of completely starting over and then trying to move to like a red, white, and blue, and then kind of sync up with all the other teams in the city. I understand that, but the burgundy and gold, man. I mean, the
burgundy and gold. It would feel very fake to me, like because I love the whole color scheme, like cities having the same color scheme. But it would just feel so fake and forced to go from the Redskins claiming racism. Well, yes, it is slightly racist, whatever.
Yeah.
To then going, ooh, red, white, and blue, America. You know what I mean? It's like it wouldn't seamlessly fit into the color scheme of the Wizards.
I would think it would look too much like the Sentinels and the replacements. It would just look like a fake team.
Yeah. So
'Cause,
bring
like-
Shane Flacco back.
Yeah, I mean, like how? Yeah, right. Like red, white, and blue. Like, how could they not look like the Patriots? I mean, they're going to look exactly like the Patriots.
True.
If they were to do that color scheme.
If they change the color scheme, I'm gonna be pissed. I think I'll be more pissed about the color scheme.
Yeah, I think that. Yeah, I agree. I think for me that'd be harder to get used to than a new name.
Yes.
I could get used to a new name in time. The color scheme, I'll be like, that's not my team.
No.
And like, I'm trying to think of like other pro franchises who did this sort of thing, whether to avoid a racist name or not, for whatever reason, changed names. But I can't think of too many that completely changed color schemes. Like some tweaks, but like not a full makeover. Am I wrong in that? I'm trying to think. The Oilers and the Titans, they're still kind of that teal blue or like that light blue and red and white. The Texans, that was just that was a brand new start. And I mean, there was no Houston Oilers at that point. They were in Tennessee already.
I mean, the Wizards and Bullets.
Yeah, that's it. Because they switched from the red, white, and blue to the blue and black and gold.
Well, then they went to match the Caps uniforms.
Yeah. Then we switched it back.
Yep.
Thank God.
Yes.
Because they were even talking about switching the name back to Bullets, and that was their way of transitioning into it.
So yeah, I'm in for keeping the letter R, keeping the same syllables, and then Tom, I don't know if you heard this before you left the way, but my ideal scenario would be going back to like a one of our like throwback logos that was
for sure
the Redskins.
Just something, whatever the Falcons did, just don't do that. Or
That's
like
the
the
thing, like,
Tampa Bay Bucks uniforms that they had prior to this, just something classy, clean, and simple. We don't need a whole lot.
And that's the thing, because the Redskins uniform is one of the most recognized and well-beloved in all of sports.
Mm-hmm.
And if you just change, I mean, the way uniforms are made, they're so unnecessarily flash. They're going to look like a color rush every single time they go out there if they change colors.
Yeah.
Just keep. I would want them to keep it.
I doubt that would be the case. I would hope not. But, furthermore about this, I mean, in something that I guess in my opinion, the best part, there's two things that I love about this name change. And one, and most importantly, is this makes RFK a legitimate, real possibility.
I think it makes it a lock.
Yeah. And I mean, the, local politician, she already went out and she said, I will present this to the city council right away. So,
yeah. JP Finley had that, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, there is not, I don't think there's a Redskins fan out there that thinks FedEx Field in Landover, Maryland's a great idea. And, if the stadium were to move somewhere in Northern Virginia, well, that cuts out, a large portion of your fan base. So, this is the Washington whatevers. And it should be in Washington, D.C., just like the other teams. It's going to be metro accessible and a state-of-the-art facility, and I wouldn't make it big. I would make it exclusive, similar to RFK, which only seats like 65,000 or something. I think it could give Snyder or whatever a really, really good opportunity to, make a home for ourselves.
JP Finley of NBC Sports Washington tweeting earlier today, I spoke with DC Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton. She explained that as soon as the Redskins change their name, she will propose a bill to get the team back to RFK Stadium, and she thinks it will pass. So, I mean, to me, that sounds like as soon as they change the name, RFK is a lock.
Wow.
And then give me DC. Let's get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then if you kick out Snyder on top of that, then you know what?
So that's my second point. I love that this infuriates Snyder, because anytime he looks bad, makes me happy. And I know that sounds almost, sociopathic, but he is the worst owner in the league. He is awful at what he does. And we already know on a local level how bad he is and what he's done to this franchise, which is bury it in the ground. So now that he is getting this notoriety negatively nationally is really, really important, because, it's the NFL is good when its marquee and historic teams are relevant. And the Redskins have been irrelevant for almost 30 years. and he is basically the one common denominator since the late 90s. And his inner circle, I mean, the Washington Post have come out with a couple articles this week, really, really just exposing how awful of a culture he has created here in Ashburn.
Yeah, I think that's another thing, though, is that I think across the nation, everyone knew that Snyder was one of the worst owners in all of sports, but now people actually care enough to do something about it. But that's beside the point. The report of half his ownership group now basically wanting out, and half being the other half that's staying is his family. So
yeah.
I feel like we had this conversation, a year ago, maybe 2, whatever it was, but we've had this conversation multiple times where would you trade the name if it meant Dan Snyder sold the team? And I think every time we would be like, it would suck, but yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I would.
Because we know that a name change brings us back to DC, and that's like the ideal place. And and then if
it's
Snyder's
all
gone,
coming together right now. It's just crazy that it's all happening right now.
In a fury too. It's so quickly. It's just changing.
Mm-hmm.
Dominoes.
I mean, we're not just looking about like he's not looked at terribly around the whole country, but also, I mean, there might be some serious, water here with him being pressured to sell the team. I mean, how big of an ass can you be that your organization is valued at over $3 billion and half of your investors want to leave? That's how insufferable you are.
While losing. They are probably while losing a lot.
Yeah.
Well,
but off the field, Ian.
Winning off the field.
Yeah.
That's why I love Jay Viv's question. Would you change the name to the Washington Snyders? Before all of this, if this wasn't happening, would you change it to Washington Snyders if it meant him selling the team and there's no guarantee of a good owner buying it?
Yes.
And you can never change the name again?
Yes.
I said yes. But we both said fuck.
It was tough. The no guarantee. The tough part is the no guarantee that a good owner would buy it. But I would think, even if it's, I would think anything is better at this point. But even if it's not, at least a new blood would be welcomed.
Gave the old college try.
Something different. And if the name changes means we're a lock to go back to DC, that's a plus for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think it's too good to pass up that if we change the name and he sells the team and win the Super Bowl in 3 years.
We're throwing a parade. We'll throw a socially distanced parade.
With his name as the team name in jest, I would never stop laughing. I would die of laughter.
Like the posters alone would be fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
I would die of laughter.
That's good.
That'd be the ultimate. That would be the ultimate.
Did you switch your answer, Tom? Are you on the yes?
Yeah, I think so. I yeah. Now that we've had a good back and forth about it, I'm with you.
I mean, it's the gut reaction.
We have some team name suggestions in our comment section on Facebook, live on Facebook. Alex Henry says the Baltimore Bandits, not the right city. Jay Viv says Olney Ospreys, closer because Olney is closer to DC than Baltimore. Umo.
Wait, say that again, Bobby.
Olney is closer to DC than Baltimore. Umo.
Okay. Metropolitan region. Yeah.
Alex Henry, again, the Fayetteville flagellant penises. That's probably your winner right there.
That or a turd sandwich?
A turd sandwich.
How about the giant douche?
There we go.
Yeah.
Bobby, we're quoting a TV show.
Lit. The Kevin Hart show?
Get out.
Kevin Hart show ducks. What do we, all right. On a scale of 1 to, let's just keep it simple, 5. Scale of 1 to 5. What's your confidence in the possibility, not that he actually will happen, but the possibility of Snyder actually selling the team?
It was always at a 0, but after this week, I'm at like half a point.
It's never been higher.
So, and I keep on talking to people about this. I'm like, it's never been higher that he's going to sell the team, and I have it at 5%. So that's
5%
like,
out of 100.
5% is what I've been saying. It's like, and I've never been happier for a 5% in my life than that 5% in my own mind.
Think about this though. I mean, we just talked about how Snyder has been the worst owner in maybe NFL history, maybe all of sports, and how many things he's gotten wrong. Just time after time, just refuses to do the right thing. Can, for whatever reason, cannot copy the right organizations. Is 20 plus years. Oh no, coming up on 20 years of losing. What if this is the one thing he gets right? He changes the name to a good name.
No, broken clock's right twice a day.
He keeps the color scheme that way, and then he also gets the green light to build a new stadium at the RFK. That way, with all of
without
that, without Bruce Allen, he gets to hold on to the older generation fans and fans like us, while also enticing a younger generation of fans. You build around Dwayne Haskett. I mean, he has the right. I mean, we haven't gotten to Ron Rivera's part in all of this, but then also just imagine, with the new stadium at RFK in what was it, like 4 years, 3 or 4 years that FedEx's lease is up, they get a Super Bowl in DC. If it's indoor, I mean, all that cash flow is going to come right in. Why would he ever sell? I think JP Finley also at this point, it's like, if he pulls this off, he'll never sell because the money's still coming in for him. Why would he ever sell?
Yeah.
And you mentioned all the years of losing, the 17 plus years of losing, the count them two. That's the list. Playoff win, not Super Bowl wins, victories.
I don't even count the first one.
That still counts though. And under his ownership.
What, the 0.5?
Okay. So 1.5. After all those losing, he still makes money off of this franchise. Why would he ever sell it?
Yeah. And I don't think there's ever been a Redskins beat reporter that says he's in this to the day he dies. But I mean, this is the only time where I've seen legitimate traction outside of just the crazy and loyal fan base that we are. He doesn't deserve us. So
he does not.
He really doesn't. So I did.
He's one of us.
I did want to bring up the Ron Rivera. I think we can all support. We're excited for him to be at the helm now. It really feels like there's finally an adult in the room, even though we've said this before. Do you think he has a little bit too much power already for a guy that hasn't coached a single game with us yet? I mean, to a point where he's involved in this name change, and he's involved in all things personnel matters, and bringing in basically his entire coaching staff from Carolina. Is this a little bit too much? I mean, because Dan always finds a guy and latches onto that guy like something. I can't think of an analogy at the moment, but is this a little bit too much too soon?
It was that guy for years.
Yeah.
I heard someone say in terms of the power that, because remember all the reports when Ron got hired of how, this was part of the deal, is that he would be granted this power if he was given the job. And someone mentioned is like, be careful what you wish for, because it's one of those situations where he wanted to be not in charge, or definitely in charge of the team, but also have empowered in the organization and the front office. And now he's basically going to change the name of this historic franchise. I don't like that word. And if you would have told me, a month ago that Ron Rivera will be the one that changed the name, I probably wouldn't believe you. Yeah. Unless a year ago, nonetheless 10 years ago, be like, Ron Rivera, no, he's going to be the head coach for the Panthers forever. He's never going to come to here. He's too good for us. And now here we are, July 7th, 2020, and it's probably going to go down in history that Ron Rivera was the one that changed the name. And then Dan's going to fire him because he didn't get credit.
Yeah, he'll be gone. I give it what?
That's
Jay lasted 4.5 years, so I give him a even 5. Maybe Rivera? We'll go 9-7 1 year.
Nah, boys, Ron and Kyle, it's coming. We're hitting the 10 mark.
You think he's going to be the head coach for 10 years?
No.
Oh.
No.
Well, do you guys agree that he's got a little bit too much on his plate?
I don't like the fact that he would be the one changing the name. He's been here, 4 months, 5 months?
Yep.
It kind of makes sense.
Well, I guess since Thanksgiving he's been here, right?
Yeah, true. It kind of makes sense that he would be the one to do it, though. He's one of the few minority head coaches in the league. He's got a military background. I mean, it's like a perfect storybook ending that he.
I mean, and I love that, but I just don't think you come to a team and all of a sudden you're the one in charge of changing the name.
Yeah. His job
culture,
title is head coach.
culture, fucking take the entire culture of that entire building, take it all, and fucking run it however you want. But to just be like, oh yeah, you get to name the team also. That's just no, I don't like that at all.
Yeah, it is. It is a lot. Is a lot very fast. We all know what happens when you make too much too soon.
Yeah.
Also, I mean, he hasn't really had much else to do. I mean, don't forget, we're in a shutdown, and we're in the middle of the offseason. Aside from the draft, he's even said all he does is Zoom calls with players. I mean, what else? He can't be too hands-on with these guys anyway. So what else is he going to do? Well, he's going to talk to Dan Snyder. And now this popped up. And now, we talked about Dan's inner circle, meaning, the ownership group or the minority owners, but expand that to front office personnel. I mean, Ron Rivera is the next guy in the door.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's a good thing. I don't know. I probably said this about Jay Gruden too. But and probably about Mike Shanahan before him.
Definitely about Mike.
And, and definitely about Jim Zorn. But I think it's a good thing that we have a head coach that has Snyder's ear. He's not a yes man. He's telling Snyder what he's going to do, and Snyder's letting him do it. In terms of that, that's a great thing. But yeah, I think Ian said it well. I don't necessarily. It doesn't freak me out as much as it. Ian disagrees with it, but yeah, it is a lot of power for a guy that just got here.
Yeah. Yep.
So that's surprising, but it's something we've never seen before.
It's under Snyder. Who knows? I mean, we all love the Ron hire. We all love it. But say he comes in, changes the name, does a shit job, runs it into the ground. Yep. Now, in no way do I think that would happen. But in a year and a half, 2 years, he's gone and he changed the name forever. It shouldn't be up to the coach.
Yep.
Yeah. That's a good point.
I don't care who it is. The only one who should be able to pick a name is maybe Bill Belichick. That's the only one who I would be like, okay, that coach can name the team.
Yep.
Ron's gonna win a Super Bowl. Ethan's like, you can name it the Washington Ian's asshole. I don't care.
You're fucking A-right, you can. If he brings me a Super Bowl, if he gets me to march down that fucking that road, he can do whatever the fuck he wants.
Oh boy,
I agree.
All right, so that was a fun-filled topic. I want to go on to the rest of the sports world. I know the Major League Baseball's intending to come back July 26th, 23rd, something. Bobby, is that right?
25th.
Yeah, the Nats open July 23rd.
23rd, and
you guys will love this, by the way. 8 minutes ago, guess who commented on the Facebook?
Chick Hernandez.
Gregory Porter. It's weird. I thought he had to go to sleep. But no, he said the Washington Gregories. All right.
Go
Washington.
He could have said it on the podcast that he helps host, but whatever.
Could have done that.
Washington War Heroes.
Pretty
good.
The goddamn War Heroes. If it's the War Heroes, we will. Oh, he'll never hear the end of it.
That's pretty.
I mean, I will make. Oh God.
I think that just goes up to Ian's number one choice.
Yeah, it really did because it works too. Washington War Heroes.
Yeah,
it does.
It works. All right, we're submitting
it.
Yeah. So we changed it from Gregory's, Greg. So fuck off. But this still.
That's pretty good.
All
right.
So, I didn't know because it reminds me of Warthogs. That's why I love it so much. Washington Warthogs.
If I were a young warthog. Thank you.
So baseball starting in a few weeks, basketball starting in a few weeks. The NFL has essentially canceled all their preseason games, but they are still scheduled to start this September. The sport, it all seems to be very much on thin ice. Especially I feel like it's now a daily thing where I receive an ESPN notification that this player has tested positive for the coronavirus or this player's decided to opt out. Bobby, I just wanted to start from your perspective now that you are back to work, so to speak. What's it been like in the baseball? What's it been like in the baseball world, and what do you really think this will be able to be pulled off?
Well, your last question is easier to answer. I personally don't. I don't think so, and I think we've already seen. It's Tuesday night, and they had their first workouts Friday, so it's been 5 days of workouts, and we've already seen a handful of teams, the Nationals included, having to cancel workouts because testing results weren't available. Yep. It's unfortunate because we spent the last 2-3 months in a public labor dispute. That's embarrassing in and of itself, but it's even more embarrassing that the commissioner comes out and says, yeah, we were always going to play 60 games anyway. All right, then what the hell was all that for? Why would you say that? Who told him to say that?
This has not been a good year for Rob Manfred, I can say that.
No, it has not.
And then, right off the bat, in the first couple of days of summer camps opening up, you already have issues with the testing. So it's like, all right, so instead of publicly battling the labor issues, why were you not figuring out how to safely get your players able to practice and protect the players and coaches at their stadiums? But I think even if they are able to sort some of that out, I think the logistics are just too overwhelming. It's just going to be too difficult for any sport. I'm not just singling out baseball, but in baseball for particular, from what we've seen, because, aside from leagues in Europe, and I think aside from the women's soccer league here in the U.S., they might have started some lacrosse leagues too. I don't know. But like baseball is the first of the 4 major sports to get back to
I feel like they're the guinea pigs.
Yeah. Which is weird because, at one point I thought in all of this that baseball was in a better position than the rest of the sports. And now we've totally flip-flopped. I think now they're in a worse position. I think it's going to be easier for the NBA and the NHL to finish their seasons than it is for baseball to start and then finish their season. So, all in all, I think, it's good to see them, at least doing some baseball activities. But like you said, every other day, it seems like we're hearing this player got sick and now all of these players are quarantined. It's just going to take one. I'll take one. And then you also add on, seeing that video of Masahiro Tanaka getting hit in the face by a line drive from Giancarlo Stanton. And it's like, oh, yeah, these guys are trying to play baseball in the middle of a pandemic. So on top of worrying about a global pandemic and a health crisis, they also have to worry about the everyday risks in terms of playing Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
And I think that injury, had it been like someone rolled their ankle while running to a base, I think that's way more possible. Like a dangerous head injury like that, I don't even know how Tanaka is doing. I haven't seen any updates in the past couple of days. But that added on to all the plus cases, the lack of results they're getting. I just think, and then between now and what we've got, I think 14, we've got 16 days until opening night when the Nationals and the Yankees play. I think we're going to see a lot of players, and if not full teams, opt out. I wouldn't surprise me in the next week or so we see a team get too many cases that they can't control. Or injuries, and then they just going to say, you know what, we're out. We can't do it. We're not going to put our players and their families at risks. It's not worth 60 games and the possibility of winning, half. I call it half a championship because it's not worth it. So I will be surprised if they start the season. I will be even more surprised if they get anywhere near halfway done of the season.
Well, I think, Ian, do you want to go ahead? Oh, there you go. I think we can say this about every sport. It's going to be really, really difficult to do when not all of the players agree. And that's not an indictment on the players. If I am, Mike Trout, for example, I have made enough money for my great, great, great grandkids to go to college for free. I've made enough money. I'm the best player of my sport. I know I'll be good to go come 2021, no problems, no questions asked. But if I am the 26th man, for example, this gives me an opportunity to show that I can actually play at this level. And you can say the same thing for football. You can say the same thing for basketball. And so when you have these, fringe professional athletes, then, this gives them an opportunity to do so. And, I would be willing to make that sacrifice too, if that was, the circumstances that they were in. So it's hard to unify in that regard. And, I don't judge or, feel less than for any player that chooses to opt out, regardless of the reason for it. And, it's just, I think, just incredibly difficult in how to quantify that, because you're talking about thousands of fringe level professional players that this could be their last year. There's always someone gunning for your job. So,
yeah, that's true. But I'm also thinking of the thousands of people that this affects. It's not just the players and coaches. It's everyone they come in contact with on a daily basis. It's their friends and their family. Sean Doolittle talked about, he can't even live with his wife because she's high risk.
Yeah.
So she's not going to be, and even if he decides to opt out, he probably still has to quarantine himself for 14 days before he can see her. So it's like, at what point
the world does not have enough Sean Doolittles.
Amen.
They
Everyone
don't.
can agree on that.
Yes.
Need more of him. And I am so
He is a
glad
good
he's
man.
on our team and he's a World Series champion.
And he's your friend.
Yeah, and he likes Star Wars.
You took that video.
What?
You took that video.
Took that video. Oh yeah.
And so every single player has their own story. So, Ryan Zimmerman opted out. He's got a newborn. He's got 3 kids, and he has a mother with a number of health conditions, and she's a risk. So I understand if I'm Ryan Zimmerman, absolutely, especially as on the tail end of his career. And
This could have been his last year.
I would like to think that there's not that many people out there that share some kind of resentment towards these athletes that are not willing to make that risk, because it's not just about them. And it's about, as you mentioned, Bobby, and it's just, it puts them really, really in a tough position, because, at one point it's, incredibly admirable and courageous that they're willing to do this, because I feel as a nation, we need to heal. And every time we've been hurt as a country, it's been sports and entertainment that have kind of, fixed that. And we can't. So this sucks. I can't think of any other way to describe it. It really sucks.
It does suck. And, like I said, I think we're going to see a couple, not just players, but teams. I'm talking about baseball opt out. I mean, we've already seen, I think, the Orlando Pride and the National Women's Soccer League opt out. But I think they came back after they all tested negative. But the Dallas team and the MLS has opted out of the season. Full teams, not just players, full teams. So no, it wouldn't surprise me if we see that in the next coming weeks. And it's tricky. And I think in terms of baseball specifically, the fact that they just can't get the simpler things right, the most important things correct is mind boggling. And I think scaring the players. I think a lot of them, I heard Chris Bryant talk about this, and he said, when I first got here, or when I first decided to play, I was like, I felt safe. And now that I'm here, I don't. And that's a scary thought. That's not the same throughout the league. I've heard on the Orioles side, almost everyone on the Orioles side feels safe. They feel confident in what they're doing, and that's great. The Nationals.
They know we're going to win the World Series. That's why.
Make Ian a very rich man. But the National side, that's like kind of split. Trey Turner today spoke, and he said, he feels safe that wearing the mask and the protocols are doing well. And Sean Doolittle, on the other hand, said, it's tricky because we don't know who has tested positive because you don't have results yet. He complimented the Nats training staff for the way that they're handling it all. But, he said, individual efforts aren't going to get us to play a season. This needs to be a collective effort with teams in the league and health officials. We need to do this together. And it just seems like too many important things are falling through the cracks.
I guess a question I have for you guys, and this is something that's I've been thinking about, is I think even if the NBA decides not to go through with this, they're okay. Basketball is a global sport now. It's the second most popular sport in the world. They'll be okay if they just have to forget about the rest of the season, then start again fresh come the fall, which is what I think they should do. But And for the NFL, I'm not as much worried about that too, because it's the most popular sport in this country. And you put on the Hall of Fame game, and there's millions of people are going to watch the just meaningless football for that at that point. And usually I'm one of them. So, and not to mention with the NBA and NFL's TV deals, they make so much money just in that alone. I think they'll be okay to save face as a whole. But it's baseball that I'm really worried about, because as we've seen, the minor league levels are absolutely decimated by this. And, a large portion of the revenue that's collected in baseball is being able to host 81 games a year. And so it's just, it's funny that we were watching that Mark McGuire, Sammy Sosa documentary a few weeks ago, and it's, for different reasons, but, baseball was in really big trouble for a few years at that point. And, I hate to see that happen again, but it could very well be the case.
Yeah, I think, I think here, one of the questions we want to get to was like, which league is in the best and or worst spot?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, in terms of everything, all things considered, I would say baseball easily. Like you kind of alluded to, Tom, I think they're in serious danger of losing a lot of fans.
Not to mention they just had maybe the worst scandal ever that is not talked about enough.
Right, which no one's talking about anymore.
Yeah.
But, with, like I mentioned, the labor dispute that they just had, and now all this debacle and what seems like to be a pretty ugly mess between players and owners.
Mm-hmm.
If they're not able to play at all this season or only play halfway, then I just see a lot of fans leaving, especially young fans.
Especially when their primary fan base, their demographic is like 25 and up. It's not appealing to young people anymore. And not played enough by minorities. So
that's true too. And what we talked about early on in this quarantine, and if they do play and these sports are able to get their seasons off and running, they're going to have to be going up against every night, the NBA, the NHL. And then once you get into September,
they're going to lose
the NFL, and they're going to lose every single time.
Yep.
It doesn't matter if you have the Yankees playing the Nationals or the Yankees, Red Sox, or Yankees, whoever, Dodgers and Angels, they're going to lose every time. Especially the way that both of those leagues, the NHL and the NBA, have formatted the end of their seasons, because it basically highlights their best players and their best teams. And those fans are going to go to watch those games, especially because they're going to be in the postseason. So who's going to watch baseball when you can watch playoff hockey or basketball? I mean, it's unfortunate, but it's true. And they're going to lose a lot of fans, I feel like. And I don't know how they salvage that at this point, because everything
and how substantial this is for teams that are rebuilding, like the Orioles, where they need all of these young prospects that they've drafted and that they've signed, and this is how the developmental process works. They need thousands and thousands of at-bats.
Yeah.
Not going to happen.
Nope.
And I mean, every team's going to suffer through that, but especially for the teams that are trying to rebuild at this point, it's a major, major, major setback.
Yep. Yeah. And
I really wish we got that number one pick.
The Oracles said?
Yeah, the Orioles, back-to-back years with number one overall.
Yeah.
Back-to-back-to-back.
Yeah. Like the Astros did, right? Or no, they have like 1-2-1 with Elias. Anyways. But the only good thing or saving grace, I guess, for the Orioles is that every team has to do it too. Not just them. Every team that's rebuilding is going to be put back a year. So, yeah, it's not a good look for the sport. Ideally they play a full season and are able to crown a champion in October.
I know I'm an eternal pessimist, but I don't know how any of these leagues are going to play.
I'm the optimist. I don't think it's going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
And especially football. How are they supposed to play a contact sport? Imagine, when offensive and defensive linemen get together, they are
so much sweat and blood being shared.
Like how
every single snap of the entire game.
Yeah. And think about from a football perspective who this affects. I mean, Dwayne Haskins is about to learn his third offense in 2 years via Zoom. Like, I'm sure that will work out well. And, also for all the college prospects. I mean, now they're not getting an opportunity to show how they have improved this coming season or what this is going to do to, the mid-major programs like my alma mater, like Coastal or the FCS level. I mean, there's all of these, there's such a domino effect on how many people are going to be affected by this. And God damn it, China.
I mean, we're an hour into this podcast, and we could do another hour on who this all affects in the sporting world. It's the ripple effects are astounding.
Yeah,
and sad.
And so I'm looking at this from a Redskins perspective, specifically. I mean, if I'm Ron Rivera, if I'm this team, like we have a built-in excuse, an understandable excuse, like, hey, we got a new coaching staff, a whole new culture. Basically a rookie quarterback that only played a handful of games. Like
terrible.
We got a long way to go, and we're not going to be ready because of this. And as in comparison to like the Dallas Cowboys and Philly, I mean, those are two teams that are obviously much, much better than us at this point in the division. So it's understandable. And, I think it's going to be a lot of bad football or whatever sport that we're talking about. It's going to be sloppy.
Yeah, we even talk about that. The quality of the play is going to be bad. I mean, we'll watch it because it'll be better than nothing. But
yeah,
you might see a lot of like in terms of baseball. You're going to see a lot of like 2-1, 3-0 games. Because the batting is going to be way behind the pitching. Unlike like we always say that at the beginning of every season.
Mm-hmm.
But in a sprint of a 60-game season, it's going to be. It could be ugly.
Yeah, and also, I mean, other effects like the gambling market. I mean, how are they going to be able to accurately predict scores and odds, especially when we are in such unfamiliar territory, or even for fantasy sports? I'm about to reactivate our league, but I have no idea when to schedule the draft because if there's no preseason, and then all of a sudden, if we start drafting in August, but then player X, Y, and Z start pulling out, then what? I'm stressed.
Commissioner of 2 leagues too.
Yeah.
Oh no, the PMIC is a breeze.
Yeah.
I only have to deal with Umo.
And he's in both.
Yeah.
Well, we all know for certain that I will lose in the championship game.
Yeah.
Well, not this year. It's gonna end.
I'll be in first place by a long shot, and the season won't get called. Oh, just look at that. We all got our money back. Son of a bitch. I'll lose it. I'll go crazy, guys.
Just quickly, speaking of basketball, I know Bradley Beal decided whether it was today or yesterday to not participate in the 22-team bracket or league. That is, thank God. That means we are not going to win, hopefully, even though we actually were 3-3 in games he didn't play this year. Just
because of Bertans.
Yeah, that too. Stay. I get it. Are you guys okay with that? I mean,
fuck yeah. I would never condemn anybody for pulling out.
Yeah. In fact, I'm actually glad he is because I don't want to even have a possibility of making the eighth seed. I don't think the Nets want to be the. I don't think the Nets want to be the 8th seed either. So, like,
what's the point? What is the point?
Do you want to play Milwaukee? I don't want to play Milwaukee.
Not a shot in hell.
Their chances are.
Did Giannis and Middleton both pull out?
No.
Then I want nothing.
Their chances of making the playoffs are slim enough as it is. But even if they make it, they're going to play Milwaukee without Bradley Beal.
Swept real quick.
I'm actually pissed because they shouldn't be playing.
Yeah.
We can't even improve our draft lottery sets. The highest we can be is 9.
At what? Damn it! At what point?
We cannot. This does not benefit. Okay, maybe it benefits Rui
and Troy Brown.
But other than that, no benefit.
Yeah.
Well, they're going to lose. They'll probably go. I think they'll be lucky if they go 3-5, but they'll probably go 2-6, 1-7, and then get knocked out. But they'll still be the 9th best odds at the lottery. And it's just like,
we don't even get to see a Bertans heat check.
Exactly.
Ugh. Like, at least give me that.
No Wall, Beal, or Bertans. So it's gonna be the Rui show.
Yeah,
Just so we
I'm
brought
with
it
you.
up.
I'm waiting for a league, and I think everyone's just kind of waiting. It's kind of reminds me of free agency. They're just waiting for that one big signing, and then you just see everything else just
Yes.
fold. And back in March, it was the NBA that just were the first one to have a plan of action. So, we'll see. I really think MLB is just the guinea pigs.
Yeah, they're waiting to see what the regular season is like. I don't know why. For some reason, I think hockey would be the most likely to actually try it.
I do too.
Yeah, they're Russian. They're fine.
Yeah, they're hard. Like it just.
But also,
right,
they're
Russian machine don't break.
They're the most clothed. Not much of their skin is covered.
And they have the face mask too.
They wear actual sweaters. Yes, it's a contact sport, but it's not as much as football, and it's not as like face on face like breathing as it is in basketball.
Except for the face off.
Yeah, but then again, just make everybody wear a shield. I'm not saying that's the right thing to do. I don't think there should be a year, but
I agree. I think if there's a sport that has the best chance, I think it's hockey.
Yeah.
So would you guys rather just say forget about 2020 leagues and just try to go back to the sports that we know and love when it's safe? Or do you really want them to really try this? And, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, then, I hope there's not going to be a substantial effect from it.
Selfishly, I want football to at least try.
That's yes. I want football to be the one that actually makes it. But then again, if and when, which I think is when, not if, it doesn't work, I'm going to be okay with it. Well, not really okay with it, but I accept it. It's for the greater good.
Yep.
But I don't see baseball happening. I'm okay with that.
Yep.
I don't see basketball happening. I'm okay with that. I think basketball that's the number one seed. That's just not. Yeah, like 24 players already testing positive like this past week or whatever it was.
I remember the NBA was the one that started all this to begin
Correct.
with.
So why are they all of a sudden they just
Rudy Gobert?
Now you're going to try and push the money in? Is that what you want to do? It's like I see you. You cared when you thought that it was going to be it would go away, but now that it's here, you want to push in the playoffs. We'll see. Football is the one I care about.
Yeah, I think I should say baseball because my job depends on it. Not depends on it, but like
I know what you mean.
Very boring if there's no baseball. But I don't see how it's gonna. And everyone I've talked to doesn't agrees. I mean, you're not gonna find too many optimists outside of players and coaches themselves who have to probably on record. Well, not even play. We've seen a lot of players say on record that they're not too confident. But like front office folks and managers on record saying that they're pretty confident. But, people around the league and around the sport don't think so highly of their chances.
Got it. All right. So, Bob, what time are we at right now?
1:11. Coming up on 1:12.
All right. So I did want to briefly go into kind of a weird anecdote. And this was, years and years ago with a friend of mine. And I was getting him into music and trying to like introducing the great bands and stuff like that. He's like, I love it, but I feel like, God, every song just like hates the government and hates the US and stuff like that. And, there are parallels to, social justice and, if musicians and bands lean one way, it's certainly to the left. And not that I'm saying that liberals are not patriotic or anything like that, but I think you catch my drift. And I just said, you kind of have to accept it. It's just, that's how music's played. That's how it's always been. And it's just take it at face value. And that's their normal. And I think at this point, because the term shut up and dribble that Laurie Ingram said to LeBron James was so offensive and arrogant. And, athletes now have a platform to speak on issues that they find to be important to them and so on and so forth. And all I'm trying to say is I think it's just a new normal that sports and politics now, they have met and they're dating. This is where we are at in the society, and I think we have to accept it.
They go hand in hand. It's because they're in the face of the public every single day. They get interviewed every single day. People care what they think. People, they're not going to stop asking the questions to them. So how are we not going to hear their opinions on it?
Yeah. And especially with social media, I mean, they have a public platform.
Yeah.
So they can voice displeasures, whatever.
Yeah. You know, it's just the day we live in. You know, it's become, I mean, there's also like to each his own, you know, if your prerogative that you feel like you want to speak out on it, do it. You know, we've seen the WNBA allowing their players to put, you know, names of Black women who were murdered on their jerseys. And I think the NBA is doing something similar. That I think it's great. I think it's great. I mean, it's, you know, what I find a little, I shouldn't say odd, maybe confusing. Maybe I haven't read up too much on their reasoning. Are the players that have opted out? We had a couple here in DC to focus more on social justice and social reform, which is a great cause. Don't get me wrong. I would just think, wouldn't you want to play and then using your platform as a player, like Ian said, every day you have a microphone and a camera in your face. Use that to then speak on what you want to speak on instead of sitting out. I mean, I'm sure. I think it's Natasha Cloud for the Mystics and maybe another player. I'm sure they're going to do great work, especially here in DC where stuff can get done. But you know, I'm just curious as to that thought process of sitting out in order to do that, where you have a platform as a player, and every night that you go out and play, you can then, you know, bring light to the issues that you want to bring light upon. So, I think that's more curious than anything.
But I get like the NBA, like Kyrie's whole thing. Like I understand that. It's like this is the most momentum they have had ever in actually bringing social awareness to the cause. And then if you go out there and you play, okay, now people stop talking about that. Now people start talking about NBA. People start talking about baseball. Like then they get back to the norm. Like now there's no sports to talk about. So now it's forced in your face to realize that these are real issues. So it's like, I get both sides, but you can't, but that's if you just completely scrap the whole NBA and stuff like that. It's not like one or two players sitting out is going to make that big of a difference. It's not. Then if it does happen, then you probably have more of a platform if you play. But if the whole NBA sits out, I get that.
That makes sense. That to me is more of like an actual full-on movement.
Yes, which is what Kyrie wanted them to do.
Which is what Kyrie wanted. Okay, yeah, that's fine. But I mean, I think that's also unrealistic. I mean, you know, it's just, how many fucking, let's just say it's 500. Can you get 500 guys to come together and unanimously forfeit their paychecks and everything? You know, some of those guys need those paychecks.
And that's the thing.
And can you honestly,
not everybody has Kyrie money.
Right. Can you ask them all to just forfeit this season and, you know, stand behind you for these issues that, like you said, are right to be, you know, stood up for and deserve a voice and to be heard and to be talked about. But I mean, I just think, I guess I think damage is definitely the wrong word, but I think there's more damage to be done by playing than not playing. I think you can have your voice heard more by playing your sport. But I totally get it. If they play, it kind of takes away, you know, everyone's going to ask about the game as opposed to your issues. But that's where you can use your platform where you'd be like, hey, I'm not going to talk about the game. I want to talk about this. You know, we've seen athletes do that. I mean, I know it's hard. It's probably easier said than done, but you know, these are difficult conversations. So, you know, it takes strong people to approach them. And I think Natasha Cloud is one of them. And I wish her the best in, you know, her endeavors in terms of standing up for, you know, social justice for Black people in this country. I would just be curious to see like her, and I haven't read up on it. Maybe I should look up on, but like, I'd just be curious at her reasoning as to why she thinks sitting out is a better option than playing and having her voice heard.
I know this kind of sounds like an old boys club to me. This thought is, you know, sports are meant to be entertaining. They're meant to be a distraction. It's, you know, if I want to get informed on something, I watch the news or I'll read certain articles or something like that. And, you know, I feel like it might be a bit of a dangerous line that if a lot of these athletes have certain platforms that they want to speak on, like someone like Aubrey Huff, who is by every stretch an asshole, and yet he has millions of followers because of his former professional baseball career, and has the ability to incite divisiveness or something along those lines. So it's just kind of again, I find it to be complicated because are these people, are they informed, and are they speaking, are they telling the truth, are they using alternative facts, as our president likes to say. So it's certainly a confounding situation.
And I think, for every voice that speaks up, you're going to have the opposing voice also speak up. And, you would hope and think that there wouldn't be an opposition to social justice and equality, but
unless you're Aubrey Huff. Yeah.
But here we are.
Unfortunately, there probably are. And, that's a whole different thing too, is it's a great platform to have, but not everyone's going to have the same agenda too. So
and see, in addition to that, last week, Jack Del Rio had some tweets
I forgot about Del Rio,
that were a bit, as I would say, facepalm. And, you are entitled to your own political opinions. That's the point of the points of a democracy, and the points of this country is that you are free to come up with to have your own thoughtful opinions. But now we're at a point where if Jack Del Rio or something says something like that, it's not going to be greeted warmly. I mean, Mike Gundy wore a shirt of a very, very conservative news program, and he almost got fired for it.
He almost got fired for it.
And
I
I
hate Owen, and I hated him wearing it. But how the fuck do you try and fire him for wearing a shirt?
Yep. Like I'm going to watch whatever news that I like. So
all I'm saying, Jack Del Rio just better come in with a top 3 defense, and just stop liking Charlie Kirk's tweets. That's all I ask. It's like, okay, talk about you loving freedom, but just don't like Charlie Kirk stuff.
Yeah. And see, that's where it's complicated, because we watch sports that are largely black, feature black athletes, and if you have a political opinion that could speak to the contrary to that, then you are going to be painted in a negative light. And so, if Jack Del Rio is a Trump supporter or whatever, and he has these conservative opinions, fine, that's fine. I don't care. That's do you. But just understand, by you vocalizing that on a public platform, it's going to be greeted with hostility, most likely. And at this point, for those that for similar situations, read the room. Probably not the best idea, but here we are.
Especially in DC, where Trump is very highly regarded as
not very liked.
No. Wrong place to do it, Jack. But again, you want to be a Trump supporter, you're a Trump supporter. It is what it is.
Yep.
We're not going to change his mind. If anything, we're just going to make him put his foot in the sand even deeper. But
So I have a question. So if you're Ron Rivera, you have a new team, 53 players, right? 52, 53. Your first day of practice, whatever, like actual in-person practice, it's maybe the first thing that I'm bringing up. Guys, I understand that we are in a different part of as a society at this moment, and I welcome political engagements and conversations, but there needs to be a level of respect and something like that, because look how divided we are as a country, and I'm sure there are players amongst 53 that have different opinions, and sadly, we're at a point where different opinions aren't treated with respect often, and it's just could lead to a lot of issues.
And we're in it's crazy, and it sucks because we're in a time.
Would you ban political conversations if you were a coach?
I don't think
it's just not worth it.
Can you
just need to focus on football? No,
I wouldn't, because to me that's then silencing their voices.
Mm-hmm.
And then
but some coaches
But if
Some
something
coaches
happens
have,
with Del Rio, if Del Rio says something and then a player doesn't feel like he can speak up because then it turns political.
Yeah.
So I would say
This is
no.
cheertatorship.
I mean, some coaches have banned Twitter. So I mean, I think Dabo Sweeney did that, which doesn't surprise me.
I don't mind the banning Twitter, at least during the season. But can't have a coach doing it too. Well,
yeah.
And remember, even when Ron and Jack came in and we're like, this is weird to have our head coach and one of our assistant coaches having Twitter. This is weird.
Mm-hmm.
This can go poorly, and, and bang, just like that.
Yeah.
Wow, would you look at that?
It went poorly.
Couple months, huh? That's pretty crazy.
Got to get another beer. Anybody need a beer?
Yeah, 2, please.
Yeah, no, I think it's unfortunate. I mean, it's crazy that we're in a JVIV says ban Twitter, leave TikTok. But if your opinion doesn't perfectly line up with the masses, you're going to get vilified, and that could be obviously on large scales. Like, I mean, I think we can all hopefully agree that racism is bad, but then on a smaller scale, it's like, okay, Del Rio, he's a Trump supporter, whatever, doesn't make him a bad coach. He's allowed to have that opinion.
We hired him for a reason,
but
it wasn't because of his political views,
right? But because he is a person with a voice and a former head coach and the defensive coordinator for Washington D.C.'s team, and he disagrees with the masses, he gets vilified, and I think that's fucked up. But that's all I have to say about that. I disagree with him, but I mean, and I would be like,
oh, I agree with you. I understand.
I would probably be like, I wouldn't have, if I were you, I wouldn't have tweeted that, but that's your prerogative. I don't care.
Yeah. I think he had a couple whiskeys that night.
Yeah, because he's never really.
Hey, we've all drunk tweeted.
Right? Hey, it's there. It's just we don't get thrown under the bus like that.
Yeah.
Last time I drunk tweeted, I decided to look up what Asante Samuel said about Darryl Green, and
don't fucking bring it up, Tom.
Yeah, very cool, Asante. Thanks.
Piece of shit.
So our final topic of the night, and this one is something that I think we've looked forward to, and I believe I saw JP Finley and Barstool Nate talk about this, and this is what prompted that conversation. And in addition to that, I myself have That's
what it was. That's why this conversation sounds familiar to me.
I have my bachelor party later on next month, hopefully. I swear to God.
Would it not be the most Tom thing, though?
Oh, the wedding's already gotten postponed.
Yeah. So,
yeah, Tom, you said it earlier in the pod. I am stressed, and I was like, yeah. On top of that, you're planning a wedding.
Yeah,
during a pandemic.
Pandemic.
So the topic that I saw the two of them talk about were local athletes that you would want to invite to your bachelor party. So I'll bring it to us three. Your top 5 local athletes that you would. Well, I didn't say local athletes, but I assume they would all be DC centric of some sorts. I am happy to give my 5. Or Bobby, do you want to go first? How do you guys?
No, yeah. You go first. Yeah.
Okay.
Proceed,
so
Bobby.
I'm going to list my 5 and provide explanations as to why.
No particular order?
No particular order.
Gotcha.
My 1 seed, and this probably comes to no surprise, and that is Brian Dozier. Mm-hmm. He spent 1 season in Washington. I don't think I've ever seen an athlete that would immediately fit in with our group of friends as fast as Brian Dozier. Good God, shirts off, and I'm ready to party. And like to hit dingers. So yeah, I'm pretty sure he'd fit in right away.
Yep.
Immediate.
You could do some damage at the Outer Banks.
Yep. Oh, he would have a great time. Second, another national, and that's Max Scherzer. Now, Max, as I was told, as I read, he's the one that got after it the most out of the whole team, which makes Max even better. But the reason why I want him there is because what Ian and I like to do, and what you like to do, Bobby, is we're just slightly competitive. And regardless of the games that we're playing, we take it just a little seriously. I'm pretty sure Max would take what was that game that we're playing on Saturday? I'm pretty sure he would take that very seriously.
Putterball?
He would. I'm pretty sure he wouldn't take putterball seriously at all yet.
Fuck him up in putterball.
I'm pretty sure he would play till the God knows what hour until he would take every game seriously, which is something I respect and I appreciate. So Max is my choice for number 2. 3 and 4, and these are kind of a package deal, and that is 2 of my favorite Redskins players of all time. That's Santana Moss and Clinton Portis. They are very, very good friends, college teammates. They would take shots of Hennessy before their games with Sean Taylor. I just, the Gibbs Part 2 era was really kind of our glory days, which sucks considering we won one freaking playoff game. But, I would want to hear stories from Santana and Clinton during their Washington days, and even their times at Miami, being on some of the best college football teams in sport history. So I got to have them there. And last but least, I'm going to go with Osh Babe. Anyone that chugs a beer through his jersey on stage is, and he's a goddamn American hero. I'm going to need him on that team too.
That's a great top 5.
I feel as though I won't really argue with anybody's top 5. I got a feeling of it.
I had one that I went back and forth with so much, and that was Fred Smoot.
He's your freshman.
Oh, how do you not want to party with Fred Smoot?
Mm-hmm. All right.
Down there, Mississippi.
All right. Who's next?
Ian?
Let's do it. Number 1 is Ovi. It's Ovechkin.
Yeah.
I don't care what is happening in the world. I would want to party with Alex Ovechkin. And actually,
now, would you want to go shot for shot with him?
Fuck yes. I got to find out where I'm at. What do you mean?
Or you will die trying.
The Russian machine never breaks scale.
Or will the Iggy machine break? There's only one will break. And in no particular order. In this one, I just want to know. I want to party with John Daly.
John Daly, golfer.
Oh yeah,
John Daly.
He gets
rips
after
cigarettes and beers at 8 a.m. while golfing.
Rips heaters.
That boy parties harder than maybe anybody. Redskin. I'm actually going Cooley.
He had a good time during his single days while the starting tight end for the Redskins.
Prime Cooley was the fucking man.
Yep.
And then I'm going. I got to go Scherzer.
I assume for the same reasons.
The exact same reasons. Like Mad Max. I just like. I want to rage with Max, and I want to play darts. I want to play putterball. I want to play beer pong.
I want to see him play beer pong like till 6 o'clock. Like I could see him losing the first game and getting absolutely furious. And
there's no way around it. And then the other, God, I had so many like just close. Gilbert, I want to party with Gilbert.
Damn,
that was the other guy.
I was gonna wonder if any Wizard would make the cut.
No, Gilbert
would be the only one.
Like I have to party with Gil. Like it has to happen.
I think you're either gonna love him or you're gonna hate him.
And we'd probably hate each other by the end of the night. But man, during that prime time, it's gonna be fantastic. Now I had some honorable mentions.
Please.
Dozier, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Shaquille O'Neal.
Yeah, give you that.
Mm-hmm.
And the obvious one is Gronkowski.
Thought you were going to say Charles Barkley. You need more gamblers
and you know what?
in there.
But Porter had that as one of his honorable mentions, so I didn't want to take that.
Fair.
And then the other one, the real one, the creme de la creme, is Bill's Mafia. Because to me, that's a fucking celebrity.
The whole fan base.
The whole fan base is a
Could
celebrity.
you
that I didn't
like?
wanna
We've seen Ian at DC Defenders games. Could you imagine him in at a Bills tailgate?
Yeah. What about the DC? What about your people? Your DC Defenders people?
Give me Bills Mafia. I love my Defenders people.
Some
Your
tables are going to get crushed.
Your bachelor parties would be everyone you took a selfie with at the Defenders game.
Fuck yes, let's get it.
I'm afraid that if the Redskins change their name and Ian goes to a Bills Mafia game, we'll never see Ian again.
He's going to ride off into the sunset in Buffalo.
Yeah.
On a bill.
No, on my tauntaun. I knew Bobby would get it.
Look, I'm with Twan.
All right. Ian, do you have Porter's top 5?
I do.
Let's hear it.
All right. So he went Dale Earnhardt Jr.
Surprising.
Right?
Wouldn't have guessed that.
You got Max in there, Max Scherzer. The lone capital is Holtby. Probably the tamest of all the ones raging.
I feel like he would rather. I feel like he would rather do like something productive during the bachelor party. Like, let's go ride four wheelers and
yeah, he would be
do something like do like an experience. Yeah,
right. He would be like the event guy.
Yeah,
like he would set up the event you do.
Yeah, I have no interest in that.
Got Rory McIlroy, which is actually. I love to party with the Irishman.
Give you that.
And then he removed Cal. Yep. Because originally he had Cal Ripken.
Mm-hmm.
And then he switched it for Shaquille O'Neal.
I could see that. And Charles Barkley.
Charles Barkley was Shaq and Charles Barkley are already there because we're such close friends.
Damn. That's a very wide. I'm impressed.
No Redskins.
Yeah,
I mean it's Porter.
It makes mine. See, well, mine's obviously very localized.
I had to cross out so many locals, Wilson and Oshie especially. But.
Yeah.
So, yeah, My number one seed is Ovi. Is hands down Ovi. I'm gonna go 2 or 3. I'm sticking with the Capitals. I'm actually going Oshie and Willie. I think those two, they're package deal. They're just bruisers, and they will just go all night. And it doesn't matter what we're doing. They're gonna be all in. And they'll make up some absurd drinking game, or like find something to drink out of.
That house would collapse. Yeah.
Yeah. And then my bottom 2 are Max and Doja. Everyone.
So Max was the one unanimous pick.
Yeah.
It's a shocker.
I couldn't think of any Redskins.
I can't believe you didn't pick
Porters and Moss are fantastic pulls.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely no part of me wants Gilbert. If there's going to be guns involved, I'm out.
I don't know. I think Gilbert would be he would be the wild card.
Come on. Like, you got to have the wild card, bitches.
Like, and man. See, like Dozier's a charisma. Like he's just like shirts off, and I'm here to raise morale at all times. Then you have the hyper competitive athlete. Then, you just need a diverse group. And, I would guess the John Daly poll is great. I thought about Bill Walton. He was fun. Yeah, that's pretty good. The Gilbert one crossed my mind a lot.
Yeah. I was like, I mean, honestly, like I had so many scratches on just like, because immediately I had Ovi, Oshie, Wilson. Those are like, and I was like, okay, hold on. I was like, there's a broader spectrum here.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah,
I'm surprised none of us picked probably the most famous DC partier, and that's John Riggins.
Riggo.
Fuck, bitch, fuck. I mean, he created the 5 o'clock club.
He did. He kicked Theismann out of there.
Yeah. Well, Gibbs told him to stop drinking in that shed, so they go to the other one because he said stop drinking in that shed. So if so facto, they were complying.
That's my shit.
Damn.
Yep. Good times.
Yeah.
Well, guys, this was fun. I have we should be able to do a Jeopardy next week. It should be. I'm going to complete it on the PowerPoint tonight, and yeah.
PowerPoint.
Oh, Alex Henry says, name that Office episode, Ian. I don't know if he's talking about that part, though. He said, vilify tweeter. Name that Office episode, Ian. Did you make an Office reference earlier?
Besides the PowerPoint? Alex, which one?
I don't know if he's still watching. I think it's just me. You'll have to talk to him later.
And thank you to Alex. He posted, he promoted our PMIC handle on Instagram through his own DC Leatherworks. So, a nice plug. Yeah, thank you, Alex.
All right, that's awesome.
Got great leatherwork, by the way.
Fantastic.
Strong leatherwork.
Strong leather.
All right, good topics, boys. Good convo. It's good to be back.
Yep.
These Zoom calls are super easy, so let's not wait 2 more months to do another episode.
Yeah.
At least a real sports episode. We knock out a couple Jeopardies every now and then.
Yep.
Thanks to Tom and Ian, and thanks to everyone who watched and commented along, including Gregory, who was supposed to be on the show, but I guess he'd rather just watch and comment.
He's eating hot dogs.
Sorry we couldn't get Fit Emo in. That's all right. We'll hopefully have him on maybe a little later. I don't know if we've actually said on the show, but congrats to Umo for being a father.
Congrats to Umo for being a father.
MJ was born after our last episode. It had to be, right? She was.
Didn't we say something? I feel like we said something on one of the Jeopardies. No, MJ.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. So many babies.
So many babies. A lot of babies. And more on the way.
More on the way.
Yeah. So good episode. Thanks to everyone who's listened and followed along and watched on Facebook Live. Of course, also give us a follow on our YouTube channel for all our videos that we've been posting. And then follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and SoundCloud at PMIC Podcast on Twitter and Instagram at Tom_Natali, at Ian_Foster21, and I'm at Bobby_Blanco on the tweeters. Gregory is at Rather Be Commenting. Rather Be Watching, more like it. Thanks again to all who watched and listened. And for Tom, Ian, I'm Bobby, and we'll see you next week for a round of Jeopardy.
Nah.
My watch is ended.
This has been Put Me in Coach Podcast.
Squeeze!